There's few players in this league where you watch them and you feel it. You feel it through the TV screen. You're sitting there eating popcorn, drinking a soda, and you feel it. You feel it emotionally. You know with 2 minutes left in the game, Brady's going to score. You feel it. There's a sense of something in the air when Mahomes and Allen player, when Derrick Henry used to get the ball in those Titans playoff runs back in the early 2020s. You feel it. You feel it when Rico Dowdle's out there. His sleeve is ripped. He's walking around with a limp. He wants to stay in the game. He stays in the game. And he's still running the ball. It's smash mouth football. It's aggressive. Dave Canales calls it violent. And you feel it. You connect with it as a viewer. You can feel the anger and passion. I was listening to a Slipknot song earlier. You know that song? It's like, I push my fingers into my eyes. Heavy metal. And that's what the Panthers offense moves the ball like. It's like a heavy metal song. It's none of this smooth jazz. Sit back in the pocket, throw it downfield. Let the quarterback prance around like a beautiful deer, little bushy white-tailed deer, just prancing around back there. Throw the ball downfield. It's cute. It's fast. It moves quick. No, Pat McAfee calls this boring. It's so boring, they don't even want to talk about it. Because it's just old school, your dad's football team, smash mouth football. We'll throw it if we have to. You know, gun to our head, we'll throw it. Otherwise, we're running the ball. And we have no problem. The quarterback has just over 100 yards. We have no problem with that. We're running the ball. And this is how we're going to beat you. This is how we're going to play. We're going to be the more violent team. And it's a breath of fresh air. In a league that is dominated by these Corvette offenses. And you were playing the king of it, Matt Laflur. One of the kings. One of these guys that has the quarterback. Has 1,000,001 wide receivers. Tight end, running back, good offensive line, really good tackles. And he just wants to sit Love back there, freaking 10-step drop and just huck the ball downfield. No, credit to Canales. He let Rico run, and he ran angrily. And I think Panthers fans need to understand the response this has across the league. And maybe I'm the one that missed it, because honestly, I think a lot of the commenters held me accountable. They said, Tone, you haven't talked about two things that you should be talking about. One, Bryce Young stinks. Just kidding. I had to throw that one in there. I had to. Sorry, that was just a joke. But one, Rico Dowdle and how he runs it. And two, the clutch trait of Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm going to talk about that more, but you're not talking about Rico Dowdle enough. I got a couple comments like that, and I agree. I couldn't agree more. Because lay people watching this, I get texts on my phone just from friends. You know, they talk about who to start in fantasy. And I go, yeah, I like Rico Dowdle. I like Ejiro McMillan, or he's going against Sauce Gardner. Maybe don't put him in, etc. And I get a lot of texts this week, just friends from all over, from all states. And they just go, Tone, like, you think this guy's Christian McCaffrey? Like, he reminds me of Christian McCaffrey. Now, play style is a lot different, but as a brand, as what Rico Dowdle is turning into over these past few games, where it's like you look at the highlight reel running back that you have, he is the symbol of the successes, these teams you've beaten, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, now the Packers, a bona fide, potentially Super Bowl contending team that you're beating, and he is the symbol of it. Because I'm the type of guy that goes, well, Dave Canales made a phone call a month ago to, Jake Curran, a journeyman guard that he used to know from his time back in Seattle. Canales is getting something out of Josh Nijman. In fact, the Panthers run to the right side of the offensive line, and I think they actually average more yards per carry. You can fact check me on that, but they ran the ball highly effectively when running the ball to the otherwise broken side of the offensive line. That was headlined by Josh Nijman, Chandler Zavala, Jake Curran, and I think even was Samac in there too. I don't even know. I'm the type of guy that looks at Joe Gilbert, looks at his unit and goes, this is the guy, this is the tone, this is why you've had success here. This is why you've had success. The line is a unit, even in that game against the Packers. Again, you watch the game against the Packers, you watch the game against the Dolphins and Cowboys, who have significantly worse defenses. And you're able to just own the line of scrimmage. I think Brian Baldinger did like a 10-minute spot on the Panthers. That guy, he's the offensive line guru on social media. And it's like, he's sitting there watching the Panthers, and it's like, let's just say his wife's not going to see him tonight. You know, he is locked in the basement watching the Panthers offensive line against the Packers because it is so sensational. It really is. And I'm the type of guy that wants to give the credit to the offensive line. But you have to give credit where credit's due. Rico Dowdle is a complete freaking beast. We're going to go into some statistics. But here's Matt Laflur, taken from the horse's mouth, on why the Packers lost that game on Sunday to the Panthers.
Typical run defense starts up front. And there were some things that we didn't do that we typically do at a high level. But it all starts for us just making sure our guys are playing their right responsibilities, their right gaps. And then it comes down to the technique and fundamentals, and just weren't good enough in that regard. I don't think it wasn't like there was anything that we didn't expect. I mean, shoot, their longest run of the day, we got a nickel pressure coming off that edge, and we just don't fit it right.
I wanted to play that specifically because that is the Packers coach reacting to the loss. And he is telling you in short order, the Panthers came in. These are things that we've done well all season, which is stop the run. I think he specifically is talking about the linebackers inside and the interior defensive line. And you were able to run inside between the gaps all game long. And he's going, we just didn't execute. Like, they took the game off. We game planned for this. We knew it was coming. We knew the Panthers were maybe one-dimensional. Like, it's windy. It's Lambeau. They're not going to throw for 300 yards. They haven't done it all year. That's not how they're going to beat us. We know what they're going to do. And we still couldn't freaking stop it. We didn't execute. And I bring that up because there is part of this where you go, is this sustainable? Is it sustainable for the Panthers to continue to win this way? Can you get a 9-win season this way? I think 100%. You have the Saints. I think you could beat the Bucks this way at least once. The Rams, a couple teams in there, the Niners, who knows? I think you could split those. 9 wins is on the table. But winning at a high level, in terms of taking the Panthers as a legitimate threat, especially amongst some of those wild card teams, like the Seahawks, for example. Some of these other teams that are in the hunt, I think the difference still between the Panthers and those teams in the hunt in the wild card is, well, the Panthers don't really have a downfield passing attack. And you look at the 20-plus yard plays, Rico Dowdle has 5 20-plus yard plays. He's started 3 games. That's tied for 3rd in the league behind Jonathan Taylor and Achane, who's a freaking beast in Miami. But he's only started 3 games. He has 5 20-plus yard plays. I wanted to do how many 10-plus yard plays Dowdle has, because I think he has a ton of those. He had that big 19-yard run at the end of the game against Green Bay. My point is you're making these big plays with the run. And whether you look at it through yards per carry, like Dowdle has 5.6 yards per carry, tied for 3rd in the league. The 20-plus yard plays, you've been able to rip off these big runs, whether they're just under or just over 20 yards. And then you look at the quarterback position, you look at the wide receivers, you're 32nd in 20-plus yard plays through the pass. Is this a sustainable approach? Can you win? Is this going to win you games? Let's let's be really optimistic. Do you take this Panthers team time and time again against some of the best teams in the NFC? If they were hypothetically to get in the playoffs, and they might, do you take this team against playoff caliber teams with the approach the Panthers have? Because I think on the surface, their style is going to help them late in the season. They'll run the ball, stop the run thing. Defense travels. Defense travels late in the season. I think you could easily, especially regular season games, get some cheap wins down the stretch that way. I think you listen to Laflur. Clearly, he thinks his team took reps off on Sunday. I think that's an approach that you can win with. I think you can win with that approach. Now, are you going to win playoff games with that approach when you're getting every team's best? Probably not. Probably not. Well, here is Dave Canales on what needs to still develop, because this is a developmental year. Don't forget about it. Even though we're going to talk playoffs and we're going to be optimistic, and I want the Panthers to win, here's Dave Canales on what needs to happen to help the Panthers get there.
Yeah, I love the energy. I love the way that the guys, take into, basically just improving their game on a weekly basis. And I love seeing that growth. The guys are hungry. It's interesting, how throughout the course of this season, different guys have shown up. And, T-Mac has kind of been consistently producing, his own way. But Xavier will have a game, and I'm expecting a big game from Jalen Coker at some point coming up, as he continues to show what he's doing out there. He looked great again, blocking, and looked fast out there. But at the same time, these guys understand that there's a lot of learning to do, and it's not just about knowing what the plays are. It's not just about knowing how to run the route, but it's also about the adjustments that happen when they do something you're not expecting, and just being really decisive in those moments. And that's where I see our learning curve. The next step for us as a passing group is just being able to, attack, even though it may be a mask type of coverage where they thought it was one thing, they throw something else at you. And those types of reactions come with time. It's time on task, and playing fast on your feet.
So a little different of an answer from Dave Canales. So we're used to him talking about Bryce Young in the sense that Bryce Young didn't execute earlier in the season. That was what he was saying. That's what the coach was literally saying about the quarterback, losing the games because of the turnovers. Now, after Sunday's game, he goes, no, Young's really decisive. He's doing really good things at the line of scrimmage. And despite us knowing that he did miss Jalen Coker underneath on that interception he threw to Xavier McKinney on the target he had to Xavier Legette in the first quarter, aside from that, Dave Canales looks at the wide receivers and says, no, you guys have to develop a little bit. And he's asked about what are the pros of the wide receivers? What are the good things? He goes, well, they still have to get on the same page, and maybe there's some adjustments to be had, whether they break off a route or they diagnose what the defense is doing. They know what's happening, and they put the quarterback in a position to make a throw. Another way of looking at it that I think is important, because you're probably going to get some more development, at least in terms of IQ, from Jalen Coker and Tetero McMillan. And Canales clearly thinks there's low-hanging fruit there. Like, yes, these guys are missing opportunities. We watched the film, where we've looked at it, we've had time to digest, and we see that there's tons of opportunity for T-Mac and Legette, he names, and Coker to help his quarterback out, to help Bryce Young out, making some shifts, knowing what to do, knowing when to maybe stop on a route or be in the right position for their quarterback based on what the defense is doing. We need to talk about this, because this is the tone. This isn't TMZ. This is hard-nosed, smash-mouth podcasting. This is, we finish the tackles. This is the tone. And Bonnie comments last week. She goes, Tony, you need to spend more time on the defense. And she said it in a very nice, kind way. Someone said it a couple weeks ago against the Jets after that win. They go, Tone, is this a top 10 defense? And the Tone doesn't want to be TMZ. He doesn't want to follow Bryce Young and Dave Canales around with a camera and try to see who hates who and make it a big paparazzi thing. I want to talk about the nitty gritty. I want to talk about the tackles. I want to talk about what happens between the tackles, between the hashes, where millions of dollars are made and lost in the NFL each week. And I don't know. Here are the numbers. I'm just going to say that. Top 16 in points allowed, top 13 in yards allowed. That is your Carolina Panthers defense after the win at Lambeau. Top 13 in yards allowed, top 16 in points allowed. Ejiro Evero's bend, don't break defense is bending certainly, but not breaking. And that is how you contained Jordan Love. That is really how you contained Dak Prescott in that Cowboys game where he only had 5 minutes and 50 seconds in terms of time of possession in the second half. You held him to a field goal and a touchdown on 2 drives, and that was enough to win against the Cowboys. 90 yards allowed in the second half against the Dolphins, the Jets. Against the Jets, you forced an interception to 3 and out on their last 2 drives. And we can talk about top 10 defense. To me, that's a little bit of a, whatever. Now, if you want my take, you've won because of the defense. You have 5 wins. How many of them are because of the defense? I honestly could probably say all 5. Even that Cowboys win where you gave up 27 points, you neutralized Dak Prescott as much as you could. Early in the season, you forced 3 and outs. Early in those games, you were in a position to be in it at the end against Arizona and Jacksonville. The defense has been way overachieving, way overexceeding on expectations. Joe Purse of The Athletic, he goes, this was supposed to be a 3-year rebuild. Now the Panthers are 5-4. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be a historically bad defense talent-wise. Now, this is what they're writing. Christian Roseboom, the first Panthers linebacker since Luke Kuechly in 2016 to post back-to-back games of 12-plus tackles. Roseboom said, anytime your name is associated with Luke Kuechly, it's a huge honor. Obviously, Christian Roseboom is nowhere near as stellar as Luke Kuechly was, but this is the type of press this team is getting. And Roseboom on Sunday led all tacklers, 15 tackles, 1 for a loss and a forced fumble. Big forced fumble. One of 2 or 3 turning points in the game. The Packers are driving. Roseboom punches the ball out of Savion Williams' hands and saves the Panthers' hopes of winning that game, coming away with a win. And that was a drive, might have been the best drive for the Packers all day. They were moving the ball up until that point. Christian Roseboom punches it out. Who recovers it? Nick Scott. And this is just illustrative of this theme, which is they're not winning because of talent. The Panthers aren't the more talented team on the field, but they're tackling harder. They are willing to give it their all and go out there and finish the tackles and hit hard and run between the tackles and play the smash mouth brand of football. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think another element of this is they play their best football late in the games. It's almost like Mariano Rivera. I go, they find something. And Bryce Young has the clutch gene. Ryan Fitzgerald, this kicker that they found, he has the clutch gene, it seems. He's been a little inconsistent this year, but he's made the big kicks. He's made the big ones. This defense, it's been this way since 2024 when Josie Jewell was making some of those big plays, turnovers that he forced late in those games when the Panthers won some games late in 2024. I think Jewell even had a sack against Kyler Murray in the Cardinals game, if I'm not mistaken. And this team somehow plays good football late in the game. And I think there's something there with the Panthers that might not be there with other teams, which is Evero, this defense, they get it. And they've been through it. And they've been told that the offense isn't going to win. It's going to be 16 points. It's going to be windy and nasty. You go out and get a win. It's going to be 13 points to New York. You're not getting much more from the offense. You go out and win. The Dolphins are up 17-0. You know, the Panthers are going to lead the best comeback in franchise history against the Dolphins, but like, you can't let them do more than 90 yards of offense in the second half. You go out and win the game. And they're closers. You love it. They're closers. They're closers. They play their best football late in the game, and I don't think that's something that these, rich quarterback teams have, where you have the quarterback just tossing it around, and everyone who's watching it is just waiting for the next score. With the Panthers, it's like, no, we need to win right now. Finish the tackle. Don't let them score. Keep the ball out of the end zone. Bend, don't break. Whatever you do, make sure you stop the opposing team's offense. They take no reps off on defense. And here's Dave Canales on the style of play they've been playing with.
I thought the style of play was amazing in terms of our run game on the offensive side. Defensively, guys flying to the ball, showing up aggressively with violence. Derek, again, just leading the charge for chasing the ball down, had some amazing stack monster plays coming out into the perimeter with screens, and we just want to try to recapture that on a weekly basis.
Canales shouts out Derek Brown, specifically J.C. Horn. They've been playing like all pros, playing some of the best football in the NFL as defenders. I do want to talk about this, though, because they're winning on defense. It's because they're visibly trying harder. Like, that is the difference in all these games to me. It's like the Packers, they took the game off. The Cowboys, the Dolphins, they didn't tackle in those games. The Jets are the Jets. The Falcons imploded offensively. But I do think there's something about the brand they're building. And besides that first half against Buffalo, where they just completely took it off, you could tell they looked tired, lethargic. Wallace was in the right place. He just wasn't getting off blocks. There were a couple reps that you watch and you go, they're there. It's just like they're moving kind of sluggishly. And then the second half, they had some of the replacements in, and they had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball and such, and it fell apart fundamentally. Which all poses the question is this a sustainable approach? Or do inevitably the Panthers take reps off? You're winning on defense. You're winning because you're trying harder than the opponent. Long term, can you sustain this? Because I think especially in the regular season, teams are going to take reps off. Now, I think, like I told you earlier, this is going to benefit you in the regular season. Because you're going to run into a lot of teams that maybe they don't bring their best football to the forefront. Maybe they still look at that Panthers game and go, you know what? We don't have to bring our best to the floor. Now, if you're 7-4, you win these next two games, and you have a really good chance of doing that. Are things going to change? Now you're the 7-4 Panthers, like, oh, geez. We're going to bring our best football. We're going to tackle. You're going to get Matt Laflur at 195%, not Matt Laflur at 50%, not Matt Laflur treating it like a game, a bona fide bye week. I don't know. But the fact that they are where they are right now is impressive. And it's a tribute to Evero. I think he is coaching himself into a head coaching job again. And it's fun watching this team. It's fun watching a team that doesn't have the Micah Parsons, that doesn't have all the talent in the world, and they're overachieving. Overachieving football is the best football. It might not be Super Bowl caliber elite football. What do you want? How much do you want? This is a developmental year. They went into this thing with a press statement, the press release from Dan Morgan in July, his written piece. This is literally what he wrote out, what the team wrote out, and he tells you winning isn't even one of the main goals. It's not even listed in the 3 goals for this season. Now they're 5-4. They might be 7-4 in a couple of weeks, and they're overachieving. So let's call out a win. Building confidence in this team. Building confidence in this team. It's a process. It's a process. Here's Dave Canales on the trade deadline and the transition for certain players that might be on the way here.
I know that there are challenges in both sides with bringing in a defensive player, understanding that there is a lot of scheme. Certain positions are a little more forgiving, say running back, for example. Pretty much it's their directional calls in the run game. Protections can be different from team to team, but that's a pretty seamless plug and play there. I think on the defensive side, when you talk about pass rushers, while they're learning all the different calls, when you're in 4 down situations, or whether you're rushing 5 and you got a player rushing an edge, that's an easy transition as well. I think
So 2 things. One, Canales says it's an easy transition for a running back moving from one team to the next. Seamless transition during the trade deadline. Is he making a little bit of a sales pitch for Chuba Hubbard? I don't know. I hope not. He also calls out edge rusher, and I honestly think the Panthers should be in the market for another edge rusher. You talk about the talent. You talk about the sustainability of this thing with this defense moving forward. Go and add an edge rusher. Trey Hendrickson, Bradley Chubb, I don't care who it is. I name those guys with worse contract situations. Now, Jalen Phillips just went to Philly for a 3rd-round pick. So I think that's the going rate. Now, he has a good contract. He's young. He's got potentials, struggled with injuries, but you probably aren't going to have to give that up for a guy with a huge contract. If you can go and get Trey Hendrickson or Jalen Phillips, or rather Bradley Chubb, I love it. I freaking love it. Because one, you're going to end up signing a guy like this next offseason. And I know Hendrickson's deal is over after the season, but you still have some needs on the defense. Like, let's not fool ourselves. You need an inside linebacker long-term. You need a safety, definitely. Nick Scott's not a long-term plan. Roseboom's not a long-term plan. I think you need another edge rusher. These 2 rotational guys you have from Minnesota, Wanham and Jones, they're not long-term answers. Yaman Mielen, I feel, is a rotational player going forward. I think he comes in 3rd and 6, wins a pass rush rep one-on-one, gets you a sack. I know he's set the edge decently well, but I think Scorton and Trey Hendrickson, Scorton and Bradley Chubb, you feel good about that for 1 or 2 seasons. And that gives you some flexibility in the draft. You have long-term and short-term flexibility. Now, I know Hendrickson's contract's a little bit different, but I love the trade because you're not going to be giving up a ton of draft capital, I'd imagine. And then secondly, the money, you can figure it out. You have cap room now. You have $100 million in cap in 2026. You can move the money around, figure this thing out, pay everyone, even if you have to take the whole contract on, but you're giving up no draft picks. I like the short-term and long-term value of that because now you don't have to go and draft another pass rusher. You can do whatever you want in the draft. I don't know how the draft's going to shake out, but Caleb Downs, you have some safeties that might be in the mix there. You can go get a tight end like Tyler Warren. Not that Tyler Warren's in the draft, but a guy who's like him. And then I think you have some more flexibility. That is it. I hope they buy. Don't give up draft capital. So do not do that. Preferably, how about a 2027 4th-round pick? We have Minnesota's 2027 4th-round pick hot and ready. Look at that steaming 4th-round pick. Look at that. Thielen has 47 receiving yards on the year. The tone was wrong about that. So now come and buy it. Come on, Cincy. You stink. We want Trey Hendrickson. This is the time.